also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
As we head towards colder weather, it's important to make sure you're up to date on vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 9, Tuesday partly sunny with a high near 26, and Wednesday sunny with a high around 21. Since 1984, Cafe Latte has been serving up the freshest baked goods and modern comfort food in a cafeteria setting. Their menu is prepared with the best ingredients available. Cafe Latte is a leader in sustainable dining, composting their food and paper waste along with recycling everything they can. Located off Victoria and Grand in St. Paul or at cafelatte.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous. Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot, and we discuss local and national Native news and events. And as you know, Ogama, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
That's exactly right. And a wonderful Native organization helps to sponsor this portion of the program. It is the Native American Community Development Institute, and they run the All My Relations Arts Gallery on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis. Right now, they have a wonderful dance performance by Rosie Sima's dance called She Who Lives on the Road to War, but there are limited in-person performances, and there's only 10 days left. So make sure you go to allmyrelationsarts.com and get your tickets.
Yeah, good call there. Hey, Ogama, I just, we don't do this enough, but we want to say Pinigigi to all our Patreon supporters. And we're on the Civic Media Network all over Turtle Island. And I just want to thank people, and Pinigigi means thank you in Ho-Chunk. Thank you for the pleasure and the privilege of your time when people listen to our show. I think that's really huge. And we run into people all the time that listen to our show, Ogama, and I just want to give a heartfelt Pinigi thank you. And let's get to the news now that you don't hear anywhere else. So why don't we get with Ogama here? And everyone, wherever I go, Ogama asks about you. So take it away.
Yeah,
Uh,
Bonjour, Anin relatives. I'm Ogama Ganua and I'm a citizen of the Red Lake Nation in northern Minnesota. And I have some news today. The first little bit of news I want to give you is just right up in line with what Robert said. We really appreciate and want to say chi miigwech to our Patreon donors. And if you're interested in being generous and giving for the holiday season, you can go to patreon.com/Native Roots Radio Network. And anything that you feel comfortable donating is definitely helpful to us here and helps us to provide the great content that you hear on our show every day. So patreon.com/Native Roots Radio Network. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was just a little bit of a wrap up on the Tribal Leaders Summit that happened this past week at the White House in Washington, D.C. And I think what is most interesting, there has been like a very short window of time for this White House Tribal Nations Summit. It was started under Obama, and then between COVID and the Trump administration, things went kind of quiet. And now this year was its first year back in person since Obama. So there was a lot of Native people who came up. But I think one of the most interesting things is that Indian Country Today reported that the youth were there and tribal leaders were there, and they were saying things like, you're saying we respect your treaties and then not actually respecting treaties, or you're saying that we're going to come and transition from consultation to consent, but you're not doing that. So there were tribal leaders there who were really willing to talk with federal officials and say that the government is not doing its due diligence, and they're giving a lot of words without action behind them, and that is really exciting, I think, for me to hear about. How about you, Robert?
yeah, definitely, and it really it makes me personally pause because we talk a lot about things, and we need to really walk the walk. And I don't mean you, but I'm just mean the general you, and so that's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that tribal leaders were, respectfully critical of what happens at the federal level with the government and the diligence that's needed to ensure that Native people are heard. So that kind of leads me into my next thing, which is that and this is from 2021, but I don't know that we've talked about this yet. So I wanted to make sure that we were aware of this, but the Safeguard Tribal Objects of Patrimony Act of 2021 is passed, and the bill prohibits the exportation of Native American cultural items and archaeological resources that were illegally obtained. It provides for the return of those items, including voluntary returns, and establishes and increases the related criminal penalties. So this kind of stemmed out of a Southwestern tribe who had a shield that had been stolen a long time ago, and it turned up in an auction in Paris. So what it means is there's no exportation of Native American cultural items, which is a way that people who steal Native historical facts for profit find a way around the current federal laws preventing people from creating non-indigenous works of crafts and other things when they're not an indigenous person. So this bill also requires the Department of the Interior and the Department of the State to each designate a liaison to facilitate and hold trainings and workshops on the voluntary return of human remains and cultural items. Many universities and museums across the country still have the remains of our relatives and cultural items within their collections, I guess you could call it, and many of them are on display. And a lot of Native people, myself included, find that really deeply disturbing. I don't know about you, Robert.
Wow, Ogama, such a good point, and thank you for bringing that up. I know I don't want to cut into your segment here, but I just have a personal experience with somebody that passed away. Their father was an antique store owner for many, many years, and guess what he had? He had scalps. He had all these things that
Ugh.
was okay to sell,
Mhm.
30, 40 years ago to
Yeah.
other people. So it just blew my mind.
Yeah, well, and I mean, the idea of going into a museum and, they're not a replica. They're not something that, that it's not dinosaur bones. It's not, although I don't know necessarily believe in the treatment of the dinosaur nation in that way either. But I mean,
correct.
they're not replicas, and there's really no good reason for the remains of another human being to be on display in a museum or to be regularly used at a university level. Anything that can be learned from those remains has probably, number one, already been learned, and number two, does not need to be on display in a public setting to learn anything more from it. So,
You were kind of cracking yourself up about that dinosaur clan, weren't you, there for a second?
I was, my family really enjoys, it's our favorite joke from Reservation Dogs is the Dinosaur Nation, and we joke about it all the time. Couple more things in this STOP Act is what it's called, the Safeguard Tribal Objects and Patrimony Act. It's also going to require the convening of a Native working group consisting of representatives of Native tribes and Native Hawaiian organizations to provide advice on the issues concerning the return of and illegal trade in human remains and cultural items. And it increases the penalty for a prison term for stealing or being convicted of selling, purchasing, using for profit, or transporting for sale or profit human remains or cultural items. It increases that from 5 years of prison time to 10 years of prison time for the maximum term. So it doesn't say that there's a minimum term, but they did increase the maximum term to 10 years. So that is definitely something that I'm feeling much relief about. And it says 2021, but I don't think that we touched base on that yet this year. So I wanted to make sure to bring that up. And then just a quick note here from CNBC, the Department of the Interior is providing 3 tribes $75 million to relocate from their coastal areas because they're at risk of destruction due to climate change. The Newtok Village and the native village of Napakiek in Alaska and the Quinault Indian Nation in Washington State are each going to receive $25 million to relocate their buildings inland. And they're also lining up and awarding $5 million grants to 8 other tribes to help them plan for relocation because their tribes will need to be relocated. So they are on coastal areas that are at risk for destruction and flooding. And, it just goes to show that tribal nations and Native peoples and other people of color are historically oppressed and disenfranchised groups in the United States and are more exposed to the effects of climate change and risk. So while I'm happy the federal government is giving the funding, it would have done a lot more to prevent this climate change to begin with.
Hey, Pinigigi Ogama, for the news, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to be with talking to the Executive Director of Take Action Minnesota. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
If the statistics say that 1 in 3 Native women and 1 in 6 Native men have experienced sexual assault in their lifetime, it means our whole community is affected by sexual violence. 1 is too many. Don't stand by, stand up. Don't engage in acts of sexual violence and shut down the dirty jokes, the gossip, the victim blaming and shaming. As a community, we can change the way we respond. Contact the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition to attend a workshop to learn more.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Health insurance that fits my budget? I'm covered. I needed health coverage I could count on and afford. MNsure helped me find a plan that works for me, and they helped me save money. Did you know that most Minnesotans qualify for savings through MNsure? And they have free experts who can help you sign up for coverage. Go to mnsure.org today and get started and get covered. That's mnsure.org. mnsure.org.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey, this portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice. And I suppose in a way it's also brought to you by Take Action Minnesota, because we have a guest on tonight from Take Action Minnesota, Robert.
Wow, what a great segue, Ogama. Hey, we have the director of Take Action Minnesota, Elianne Farhat, and I see that she's on here and her mic's muted. That's hard to say. Mic's muted. Welcome to Native Roots Radio.
Hi, good evening.
Hey, good evening. We are all over Turtle Island here. We're on 10 stations live across the country, and we want to support what's going on coming up here. And first, tell our listeners, we have a lot of people all over the country listening, what is Take Action Minnesota? And then let's talk real quick about the event that's coming up.
Yeah, good to be here. Glad to be heard by so many people in so many places. Take Action Minnesota is a statewide, multiracial, multi-generational people's organization, bringing people together across our state to take action for racial, economic, and gender justice. And we really act from a place of our values. We really believe in a world where everyone can live happy, full, thriving lives. And we start there. And then we say, what is getting in the way of that? And we connect people together to come together in public and make the change we need to see in our communities and in our state.
You know, I've loved your organization for a long, long time. And it just, when it comes to all the progressive stations we're on across the country, it really just, every bullet point that what you guys do just align with us so perfectly. And it's really an honor to have you on. We have a relative of yours on every Friday, and it's fun to hear her story because her daughter kind of got her into politics, and now she's a state senator of Minnesota.
Yeah, I think you're talking about my mom, Robert. Yes, that is right. My mom is Senator Mary Kunish, and she loves being on your show. And, I just had my sister and I both had daughters this last year, first grandchildren. And that's my mom's day to watch them. So it's always the rule, Robert, is we've got to pick the girls up or at least be there before she comes on your show so she can focus. And I know it's such a joy to speak with you and to everyone across the country. And yes, you might think, oh, her daughter is an executive director at Take Action, and she's a state senator, and what a political family. But it really wasn't that way. I got into organizing. I fell into it like a lot of people just fall into it. No one told me that it could be a career path, but for everyone listening who wants a job and making change, it can be a career path. And my mom, supported me, didn't totally understand it, like lots of parents of organizers, and then started volunteering on campaigns I was on. And she's incredible. She's incredible at connecting with people and bringing people together and moving towards a common goal. And so when she was invited to run for office and get active, she said yes. And quite the force in our state, just like in our family.
Absolutely. And what's really fun too, on Fridays, we have dueling babies because not only your baby and your sister's baby, but Ogama has a baby too. So they're all on the air. So it's a baby fest on Friday, right, Ogama?
It absolutely is. My daughter's going to be 9 months here on the 8th, and yeah, she's on camera. She's hitting me in the microphone. She's talking in the background. It's definitely a lot of fun to have the young ones involved.
Totally,
Yeah,
totally. They
exactly.
give
Well,
us
so
hope, you know? They give us hope.
oh, definitely. And it's always fun to run into you at different places. I know I just got to give you a quick shout out when I was a high school teacher, as your mom was a teacher too. When St. Paul was on strike, Take Action, and the executive director was marching right next to me, and that was great to see you there. And always surprising where I see you, but it shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, we run into each other quite a bit. But it is funny, Robert, as I was thinking about this segment, and thinking about the way that workers and community are coming together, to demand a better future. It's so funny. I went right back to that, and you and I marching together. You brought your drum and you let me drum, and I didn't have a very good beat at the beginning, but you were patient, and I got a good beat, and we marched together, and it was just that was a powerful moment, and I feel like the last time we marched together is really similar to the time folks are going to be marching together, this Thursday, and
Hmm.
I was really excited about having this conversation with you.
Well, let's talk about that. What's going on this Thursday?
Yeah, so this Thursday, Amazon workers and community members are coming together in an event called Workers Rising, and probably at least 150. If the folks listening to this who are in Minnesota come, it'll be more than 150. You should totally come. Are coming are gathering throughout the day to connect, build relationship, learn together, plan together. And then the big event is in the afternoon, all gathering at the Amazon Fulfillment Center in Shakopee, to demand that Amazon, really take responsibility for its role, to deliver, for a just transition to a clean energy economy in our state and across the globe, as well as to deliver good jobs. And Amazon workers have been organizing, in Minnesota with AWOOD, and are facing and continue to face just immoral workplace conditions, just unsafe, lots of surveillance, not good pay, and so we're all coming together to demand that Amazon be the type of place that, cares for our people, both when they are working in their warehouses and in other places, as well as in our communities and for our climate.
Exactly, and they can afford all these things, and that's, during, the pandemic, they were the only people really making money and, people, buying things from them, and, it's just we need a fair wage and fair conditions for these people, we can't go backwards, right?
Right. I mean, I think the statistic is that in 2020, Jeff Bezos himself added $70 billion to his net wealth. And so that just puts it into some perspective of how much money we're talking about here, just an individual man. And so, let alone the whole company. And the company continues to grow. It is the largest retailer in the country. I'm sorry, the largest retailer in the world. I think it's the sixth largest company in the world. And, a lot of us interface with Amazon online shopping, or, seeing the Prime trucks in our neighborhoods. Or maybe we
Mhm.
know folks who have worked in the warehouses. But Amazon is much bigger than that. They have this massive, web services infrastructure, like the back end of our internet, and infrastructure. They own a lot of it, and they're contracting with our government. And so a lot of federal as well as state and local governments are contracting with those cloud services. They have the Ring. If any of you have a Ring, on your front door, like that's owned by Amazon, and they take that data and sell it.
Yep.
You may have an Alexa, so it's really everywhere. And the
Mhm.
company has gotten to, when companies get so big, it's no long, they're no longer like your standard. It's not even like a big company, like it's not we're not even talking about like, are you a small business or not? I mean, Amazon is at the size of, and with like the consolidation of power and influence that, they have as much responsibility as any of our local or state entities of government to like show up and lead. And the way they operate is impacting our daily lives. And so this action is really to say, like, you are consolidating power and resources, and that is impacting our lives. And we get to have a say in something that big with that much impact on our lives. And especially when you have that much money, you got to put it to good use, and put your money where your mouth is when you're talking about, um, you know, saving the planet and a just climate future.
The irony is the name of the company is Amazon. That's the irony. And this is our Standard Oil right now. That we need to break them up like all these big companies and get back to that. But we only have like a minute left. Let's talk about the event one more time so our listeners can key in on that. And we'll be talking about it. Ogama and I will be talking about it for the next couple days also.
Awesome. So if you go to our website, takeactionminnesota, all spelled out.org, you can find more info. It starts, it's a program and rally at the Shakopee Amazon Fulfillment Center called Worker Rising. Workers and community members are coming together to demand that Amazon deliver good jobs, good, safe jobs in our communities, and that they pay for a just transition to a clean energy future in Minnesota.
Wow, Pinagigi for being on. Let's do this more often.
Yes.
Really appreciate it. And maybe one day we'll get you on the same day as your mom and surprise her. Ho!
Oh,
Great to having you on. And
thanks,
we'll be
Robert.
talking about that the rest of the days up leading up to it. So Pinagigi for being on, and we'll talk to you real soon.
All
You're
right. Thank
listening.
you.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be back with Dr. Stately right after this short break. Stay with us.
As we head towards colder weather, it's important to make sure you're up to date on vaccinations and protected from COVID-19. The Native American Community Clinic is now administering the updated Pfizer bivalent booster. The updated bivalent booster helps protect against the original COVID-19 strain and against newer Omicron variants. And it will help restore protection that has decreased since previous vaccinations. People age 5 and older are now recommended to get an updated bivalent booster dose at least 2 months after their last COVID-19 shot. That means the bivalent booster may be given after a person's primary series or after their last booster shot, regardless of what brand you received before. Even if you've already had COVID-19, you should get vaccinated. Right now, at the Native American Community Clinic, you can get COVID-19 vaccines, including updated boosters, at the same visit as other vaccines. However, if you've received a recent monkeypox vaccine, you may need to wait 4 weeks before you can get a COVID-19 vaccine, and you should discuss this with your provider. Schedule your vaccination appointment with the Native American Community Clinic by calling 612-872-8086.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinagigi, and thank you for your support.
Cafe Latte offers made-from-scratch soups, salads, sandwiches, and mouth-watering desserts.
So come check out their pizza and wine bar, or get a treat from the bakery made fresh daily. Plus, you can still do online ordering and takeout, along with gift cards. Just go to cafelatte.com and choose from their ever-changing selection of award-winning salads, sandwiches, and soups. Cafe Latte is located off Victoria and Grand and online at cafelatte.com.
We at AM 950 wanted to offer more thank you gifts for the great listeners who have become members. Brand new for 2023, AM 950 has the new National Parks poster featuring photos I took at the national parks. Members who sign up for a one-time $99.50 membership or recurring $25 per month membership will receive the brand new AM 950 National Parks poster and the AM 950 2023 calendar as a thank you. Go to am950radio.com, click on the tab, and become a member now. Thank you so much for supporting AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
'Tis the season to be jolly, and nothing makes me jollier than a clean home. If you just had Thanksgiving at home, you're probably still assessing the headaches your holiday company caused to your carpets, tiles, and maybe even the upholstery. And now you have less than a month before it's going to happen all over again. Call Zero Res today and ask for the AM 950 special and free room Zero Resified for just $119. That's a $50 savings. And don't forget those air ducts. Take another $75 off your air duct service to get them Zero Res clean. Also, are you looking for last-minute gift ideas? Give your loved ones a Zero Res gift card to spread the Zero Res clean cheer. Call 952-ZERO-RES or visit ZeroResMinnesota.com to schedule your appointment today and beat the holiday rush. Lastly, now is the best time to book Zero Res for your year-round office cleaning and get you ready to provide your employees and patrons a clean and safe environment for 2023.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly cloudy skies tonight with a low around 9, Tuesday partly sunny with a high near 26, and Wednesday sunny with a high around 21. The holidays are here, and when you're out shopping, make sure you check out one of the great AM 950 advertisers. Most are locally owned and operated, and some offer gift cards and certificates, which make great gift ideas for that tough-to-buy-for person. Find a full list of all of our advertisers at am950radio.com. That's am950radio.com.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm Awake.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I just wanted to let everybody know that this portion of the show is sponsored by MNsure or MNsure. If you're looking for affordable health insurance, make sure you go to mnsure.org to find a plan for open enrollment before the end of the year.
Right on. We love the support, and being supported by MNsure is just an awesome thing. Hey, we're waiting for Dr. Stately, and I just texted him, and I haven't. I'm not sure if he has the link or what. But Ogama, I'm wondering if you have the capacity just to bring that up again about the Amazon action one more time for our people that are listening.
Yes, absolutely. So this Thursday, December 8th, at the Twin Cities Amazon Fulfillment Center, there's going to be a support event for community members and Amazon workers, asking for workers' rights and demanding that Amazon contribute to the just transition and to a sustainable economy and good jobs here in Minnesota. You can find more information at Take Action Minnesota. Minnesota is spelled out, not Take Action MN. It's Take Action Minnesota.org/workers rising, or just go to the Take Action page and you'll see at the top it says Take Action. So this Workers Rising event is a campaign that's actually led by the Amazon workers themselves and supported by Take Action to demand raises, worker safety, and a just transition. And like Elianne said while she was here, we just had Elianne Farhat, the executive director of Take Action Minnesota, join us for a segment on Native Roots Radio. And like she said, this is there's no good reason for Jeff Bezos to not be paying his workers a living wage. He made record profits in 2020 and continues to make a record amount of money with all of the things that Amazon has stock in, or things that we use in our daily lives. And they really need to take responsibility for their impact on our climate, their responsibility to treat people with respect. And there's a form on Take Action Minnesota that you can fill out to let them know that you'll be there on Thursday, December 8th at the Amazon Fulfillment Center. And I do believe the flow of the day, they're gathering at 11 a.m. at the MSP Airport Terminal 2 Blue Line Station for a morning action, and then heading over for lunch. And then at 4 p.m., they're doing the MSP 1 rally with Amazon workers. So make sure you go over there and get all of the details.
You know, I have a lot of books, Ogama and Dr. Stately. By the way, welcome, Dr. Stately, the CEO of a Native American Community Clinic in here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. I have a lot of books, and I feel like people that are making $70 billion, especially during the year of COVID, and not helping their community. I mean, how much money can you have? I mean, they're like hoarders too. Oh, did I just admit being a hoarder? They are hoarders, I should say. Oh, wow. Hey, Dr. Stately. We just had a nice guest on before
Well,
you.
I mean, I think somebody that tries to amass billions and billions of dollars
is a little bit different than somebody who tries to amass a bunch of books and knowledge.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's possible you could be trying to compensate for something like a poor self-esteem, but I don't think that that's what you're doing when you hoard books.
Yeah, I think I suffer from an abundance, an overabundance of self-esteem. I think I have too much
Yeah.
self-esteem
Mhm.
for a person that like me should.
Yeah, like you got your helping and then somebody else's too.
Are you guys gonna make it? That one really got Robert today. Dr. Staley, you're on point for the humor.
That was a good one. I just rolled right with that one.
It's like, it's good to have self-confidence. That's what it is. It's good to have self-confidence.
Right. Good, 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 and it's good to
Also
be a
good
good
to be
tap
humble.
dancer on live radio too. Ho,
Mhm.
wah.
It's also good to be humble. This is like what our
Hey.
ancestors have taught us. But
Right.
in all good reality, yeah, I think like one of the things that's challenging about that conversation is that there was like they always say like in moments of crisis there's always opportunity. And so I think that some people interpret that as like, oh, the world is in the middle of a pandemic, let me become a billionaire like 19 times over, right? Versus like, oh, let me see what I can do to contribute to the improvement and the betterment of all humankind. Some people are just wired differently, right?
Yeah.
And
At
I think
least,
that it really has a lot to do with, depends on that. So
well, at least Rockefeller gave out dimes when he walked around and tried to buy people off. I mean, Standard Oil, it was another big monopoly, just like Microsoft, and here we are with Amazon. And but yeah, he liked that one. He did give out dimes. He had a film crew follow him around and gave out dimes to kids during the Depression or even before the Depression. Oh, Dr. Staley, you accidentally muted yourself. And there you go.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I was gonna say that it seems like I don't know. I guess back then in the Depression era, a dime was a lot of money, right? So
Mhm.
when I was a kid, a dime was a lot of money. I mean, you can get like a whole handful of bubble gum for a dime. There was,
Baseball cards were
yeah.
base baseball cards are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars were a dime when I was a kid, or
I
even
know,
in
right? Kind
yeah.
of really wishing you held on to those now, huh?
Oh, I did.
Did you? That's good.
A
Yeah.
lot of them, yeah. My mom
Yeah.
was a collector, but that's a different show. We could start a collector show or pack rat show or something like that, but Wendy would not approve.
Yeah. Well, we already know, like through the intimations and the connotations that your wife has made on, on public radio here, on the on the airwaves, that you do have a tendency and propensity to hold on to some things, like those things
Yeah.
behind you.
Yeah. Oh, I still haven't framed that present for you yet, but I'm not sure if you celebrate Christmas as a Native man in the Native family, so I'll have to figure out when to get this to you.
I don't necessarily celebrate that, but I do celebrate receiving of gifts.
Yeah.
Celebrate that.
Exactly.
No, I
Hey,
do.
hey, Dr. Staley, we haven't talked a lot, and there's a lot of reports out there about what's
Yeah.
happening with COVID. You got the flu, you got
Oh my
all these
gosh.
other things coming up,
Yes.
and I mean, I didn't get sick for 3 years because I didn't go anywhere, and when I did, I wore a mask.
Yep. Yep. Now, I think like I think there was like maybe 3 or 4 shows ago that I talked or maybe it might have been like in early September, perhaps. I talked a little bit about this, the potential for like the confluence of like the flu and COVID, and then as early as like August and September, we were starting to see the impact of lots of young kids returning to school. RSV was starting to take off, and it was pretty you could kind of see the writing on the wall if you looked really closely and carefully. That these three respiratory things that sort of like all coming together at at an inopportune time could cause some real challenges for our communities and for our healthcare system, and that's exactly where we're at right now. Ironically, 2 weeks before Christmas, right? So it's like 3 weeks before Christmas.
Well, Dr. Stately, I've heard reports, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard reports that really you need that last booster. You need a flu shot for sure, but the last booster is really what's protecting people now, not the last 3 or 4 that we had earlier.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that the last booster, I think, and there's challenges, like, so we're talking about the bivalent booster, and I think that there's
Right.
some people that are like have been reluctant to get it because I've heard multiple sort of like uh, positions from different people on the issue of whether I should take the vaccine or not. Um, the new bivalent booster. And I think one of the challenges is that I've talked to people. I always, like, I've said this on this show before, and when I do talk to like folks and my colleagues or within a professional setting, but even when I talk to my relatives, I'm like, you know, even if it's just, I've said this even about the flu vaccine, even if it's only going to give me 20 or 30%, um, you know, or 40%,
Right.
protection, like, or the 40% of effectiveness is that, that kind of thing. Like in a situation like this, I'm going to sort of kind of go with like some percentage of protection rather than zero. Like, I'm not a gambling man, but I'm pretty sure that I know that 40% of something is better than 0% of nothing.
You're not a mathematician, but that
Yeah, exactly. And I don't even play one on TV.
yeah, or radio.
Radio. And I know enough to know that, like, and I think that's kind of like what I always try to tell family members is like, you might not get full protection in the sense that you won't get sick from the flu, but your likelihood to be sick 10 days straight with the flu,
Right.
with a horrific case of it, is likely to be significantly less. And COVID, of course, same situation. Um, I happened to, back in like late August, early September, I got the bivalent booster as soon as I was able to take it, and then also I got my flu vaccine. And I did that because I was sick with COVID, and I still have some scarring in my lungs, and I've been having some lung issues and breathing issues on and off intermittently for the last several months. But I didn't want to take the chance that I was going to get sick again. I didn't want to take the chance that I'd have COVID at the same time I'd have for the flu, and I was not willing to take that risk because I didn't want to end up back in the hospital again. I like my experience of being in the hospital with COVID was that it was scary as heck. So
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that in the next segment. You're listening to Native Roots Radio, and we're Dr. Stately, CEO of Native American Community Clinic here in Minnesota, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. We'll be right back after this short break. Please stay with us. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Health insurance that fits my budget? I'm covered. I needed health coverage I could count on and afford. MNsure helped me find a plan that works for me, and they helped me save money. Did you know that most Minnesotans qualify for savings through MNsure? And they have free experts who can help you sign up for coverage. Go to mnsure.org today and get started and get covered. That's mnsure.org. mnsure.org.
Hey, Olgama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Bonjour, I am Oshawashko Gajig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
Hey relatives, this portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Yeah, also
forget
this portion is also the Sacred Pack Rat podcast with Robert and Anthony.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Staley. Oh, hey.
We're
So
more famous than other pack rats. Rat packs. Rat packs or bat racks.
yeah, Rat Pack with Sinatra and well, anyways, that's another show. Hey, Dr. Staley, we were just ending the last segment, and I wanted to bring that up this segment too. Is that when you had COVID, there was no vaccine, and a lot of times it was a scary, scary deal. And how quickly do we forget that? Not you personally, but just the public.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a certain amount of like complacency that we've slipped into as a society, And I mean, I don't know what it's like around the world because well, one, I don't travel anywhere outside of the state of Minnesota very frequently. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but it's hockey season, and when it's hockey season, like I'm anchored to the state. I can't go anywhere or do anything. And then, but generally speaking, like I think across the United States, like one of the wealthiest nations in the world, one of the, we are a well-developed country. We have so many resources, so much, abundance here, and yet, what we have not a lot of abundance in is having clarity around our strategy around public health, right? People are not practicing good public health strategies. I think many of us have slipped into sort of like this, this place where we're like, well, I'll be just fine because I don't do X, Y, and Z, whatever X, Y, and Z is going to be. And I think part of that is like, the practices of not wearing masks and not socially distancing and not being really careful, like washing your hands and having good hygiene. Has not served us well in this last year, right? We've actually seen COVID in its mutated state pass fairly quickly and rapidly between and among groups of individuals and within communities, and actually contribute to significant amount of hospitalizations. And while we're not seeing the amount of people die that we were seeing in March of 2020, right, or in late 2019, we continue to see upwards of like 100 and some deaths a year. I mean, a day.
Yeah.
That's not insignificant. That's like about 500,000 people a year, right? And so
Right.
part of it is like we have to get back to the place where we begin to understand like the benefits of practicing some very basic public health strategies, like, wearing masks when we're sick and we're in quarters with people where we're sharing space, doing things like staying home, even though, we really, really want to get to the mall and buy that one thing that we think we're going to die without. Stay home and wait until you're well,
Right.
and well enough to be among other people. And that's a responsible thing to do. And what we're seeing, because people are not doing those things, is we're seeing flu rates significantly higher than they've been in a number of years. Low vaccination rates for flu. RSV ripping through communities. The people who are the most vulnerable for RSV are those little tiny ones because they have little
Right.
tiny airwaves. And RSV is a virus that causes the airwaves to sort of like close up and have difficulty breathing because of the inflation and the inflammation that happens as a result of that. And so those folks, and then the much older people, are much more vulnerable. I recently looked at stats from the CDC and from some of the national data. The overwhelming majority of people who are dying now from COVID, and there are many people that are still dying from COVID, are those
Right.
who are over 65.
Mm.
Even who are the most vulnerable. And I want people to think about like what it would mean for you to be sick with COVID, the flu, and maybe even possibly RSV if you have a child or an older person living in your home, or that you have. There is no vaccine for RSV. There's really nothing you can do for them. It's a virus. They got to kind of ride it out, right? And it is not going to bode well if you get both of those things or all three of them at the same time.
And it's hard too, and I remember this as teaching school. It's hard for
Yeah.
people to keep their kids home, but they should be keeping them home when they're really sick. And you talk about masks. I just think about, within a couple weeks when that judge that Trump put in there and got rid of the mask mandate on planes, I don't see anyone now with a mask on in the plane.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't take planes anywhere right now. But also, one of the things I wanted to just really quickly say is that, there are a lot of people that cannot keep their children home. They have to make a
Right.
decision between like staying home with their child when they're sick, or and not going to work and losing the money that they would make to
Right.
buy food, which is now 7% higher prices in some of those things than they were 2 years ago. So it's like, the people are not.
Oh, we just lost you, Dr. Stately.
I thought it was
Everyone
just me,
below,
Robert. Looks. Oh,
everyone below the 1%ers. So, right, the people who are doing poorly, who are losing their homes, who are struggling with everyday life, the cost of everyday life and inflation, and it's just compounded by the illnesses that are going on, is that, are the people who didn't get wealthy during the pandemic. The people who got wealthy during the pandemic and had abundance, they're doing well. They can ride this thing out for as long as it needs. So we have tremendous inequities in our health system and a few other places as well. So we got to remember.
That's a perfect thing to bring up, and it's just frightening because of that. And also, it's interesting too, what you said about 65 and over. That's the first I've heard that. That's really frightening. And let's get that other booster. I think a lot of people are forgetting about that booster. I thought I heard only 17% have gotten the second booster.
Yeah, only 17%, which is like, I mean, that is so under and even like about something like 34% or 24%, I think, of people who normally would take there's like a 13 to 24% reduction depending on your jurisdiction, like of people who are not taking the flu vaccine, right? And it's one of the challenges that we have facing us as a result of the pandemic and some of the things that have been going on with the politicization of like the vaccines and stuff is that people have less faith and confidence in vaccines today than they had 20, 30 years ago, right?
Unbelievable.
And so it is creating a lot of vulnerability in our society, but it's most impactful to the people who have the least amount of resources to just meet everyday demands of living. So.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for that's a great point. Thank you, Dr. Stately, for stopping in and spreading out your knowledge through all throughout Turtle Island. Really, really, really appreciate you and what you bring to the show. Hey, we need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. Free Leonard Peltier now.
Hey, Minnesota, I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, and I want to hear from